Episode 147, Ladder of Ascension. Welcome to Gratitude Geek, the relationship marketing podcast, helping DIY marketers find your micro influencer magic so you attract raving fans and repeat buyers. I'm your host, Candice Rodardi, and this week I'm joined by marketing automation guru, Michelle Nedelec. International bestselling author Michelle Nedelec is an expert in entrepreneurialism and the founder of Awareness Strategies. She's run her own series of companies for over 22 years, and for over 15 years has been helping sales reps, entrepreneurs, and executives continually double their profits and revenues. She not only has what it takes to help her clients build multi-million-dollar businesses, but she does it time and time again. Michelle particularly loves to talk about marketing automation, systems integration, and support both on and off the stage. She teaches the key components of scaling a business, strategy, systems, support, and state of mind, so you know how to continually elevate all four components to build a healthy, thriving business. For the past 6 years, she's been focusing on helping entrepreneurs bring their businesses online from conceptualization to done for you IT automation. She also happens to have a great sense of humor and a love for stilettos. Hey, Gratitude Geeks, the biggest card and gift sending holiday of the year is drawing ever more near. Release the stress of your holiday card sending and get it done now. You can make your holiday card and choose a specific date to send it. That means your stress over your holiday cards can be gone in just a few minutes for the rest of the season. Learn how at relationshipmarketingcoach.com. Hey, Michelle, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Fabulous. So tell us your story. How'd you get to where you are?
Well, it all started once upon a time. I was a very spoiled child. I was fortunate. I was the fifth of five, and there's a 6-year gap between myself and my brother. And I think that has a lot to do with I was just a rebel from the get-go, and the idea of being self-employed was intriguing enough to me. A friend of mine and I used to sit in her bedroom, and she used to go, I'm going to be a teacher when I grow up. And she'd have the little board and she'd point at it, and I would be her student. She would tell me all these things. And I'm like, I'm not going to be a teacher, and I will tell you what to do and what you did wrong with it. I'm not really sure if that was indicative of things to come, but certainly has had its influence. So what I do now, I am a international speaker, international best-selling author. I help business owners become successful, and I help them to do that not only through their business acumen, but also through helping them with their mindset and helping them get all the head trash out of the way so that they can be successful. And right now, I spend a lot of my time doing podcasts with people like this, which I find super fun, and helping entrepreneurs to motivate them not only to quote unquote grow in their business. Some of them don't want to, which is totally cool, but helping them personally to grow in their business as an individual so that they can get out of their business what they went into it for.
I want to talk about this whole 5 thing because you're the youngest of 5. There's 5 years between you and your younger brother or your older brother. So five seems to be a number. A magic number for you.
I think I am in numerology, if my life path or something like that is 5, I think.
I don't know what that means. Sure. I don't know what that means.
I think it tends to mean that I do what I want when I want.
I wonder if I'm a 5 too.
Right? You might be.
Could be. I think that's cool though. That 5, you know, the 5, the power of 5. So I don't know. Maybe you should do something with that in your marketing. I don't know. I'm just saying. So you talked about how some folks don't want to grow, and that's okay. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Dig into that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you can build a fantastic business, say you're a personal coach of some sort, and you have a $10,000 program for the year, especially if it's a transformational program that you're continually working with somebody and transforming them. And especially in my case in business, because business people have this ongoing issue, right? Whereas with weight in relationships, somebody loses the weight, they no longer have the issue. They no longer necessarily need a coach after that. And somebody is a relationship coach, if they find the love of their life, you don't necessarily need the coach. Whereas a business coach, I find particularly fascinating, is that people tend to keep their business coaches for years on end, which makes marketing for them, the clients, delightful, because you really only have to do it every once in a while. So, if your goal is to make 100 grand a year, you have 10 clients at 10 grand, and la voila, you work, 20 hours a week maximum. And you're making a half decent living. Life is good.
Hey, you
There
said the
ain't
magic.
nothing wrong with that.
You said the magic. The formula. 10 customers at $10,000 each. For some people listening to this podcast, that might be this airy fairy in the sky,
Nirvana in the sky
Nirvana
thing.
in the
Yeah.
sky. Talk
Mhm.
about that.
That's okay. You got to start somewhere. Nobody starts with 10 clients. You start with one or half of one, and then you work your way up. And it's not so much about where you are. You need to know where you are, obviously, because if you don't know where you are, you're kind of delusional, and that makes creating a plan moving forward rather difficult. There is absolutely nothing wrong with where you are. Wherever you are is just where you are, and that's what it is. It's like when you start cooking soup, you have water. And it's important to know that you have water, because otherwise if you put the heat on and you don't have water, you have more issues than you realize. So just recognizing that you're a pot of water with no spice, no vegetables yet, that's okay. And then the question is, what do you want to put in the pot, right? There's everything. You can put anything in the pot. Question is, what do you want to put in the pot? And when you have a recipe in your mind, a plan of where you want your business to go, then you start looking for those things, right? If you're making a meat soup, you're not going to go to the garden and look for vegetables. Well, you might for a few of them, but you're much better off to go to the field and start looking for rabbits and chickens and fun stuff that you want in there. If, on the other hand, you want a vegetable soup, then go to the garden and check out what it is that you want to have in there. And the same thing happens in business. And the problem I had when I started my business, and I was kind of me, myself, and I, is I would look around and go, okay, what do I want? And the scope of my what do I wantness was based on what I could see around me. And sometimes you got to get out of that. You got to go to other places and see what other people have and how they've done what they've done. And then you start to go, oh, I like this idea. I really want to have, potatoes in my soup. I want to have carrots in my soup, whatever it is. And understand that there's nothing wrong with anything that it is. It's just a choice, and you get to put in there whatever you want. So take away the numbers, take away the kind of quote unquote successes, and relabel them as fruits and vegetables or spices, and then go, okay, this is what I want in my soup. And then you give yourself permission to start achieving things that you wouldn't otherwise give yourself permission to, because of course you're not going to stop yourself from having a carrot soup, right? So why not, replace whatever that dream thing is that that has seemed to be beyond your reach, and just call it carrots. And then, okay, great. So now how do we get ourselves some carrots? How many carrots do you want in the soup? What do you want to do with it? By doing that, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but you start to give yourself permission to achieve things that you've never achieved before, and that's okay. So maybe you start with, you're only charging your clients $500 a month, and maybe you're only charging them $200 a month, and that's okay. How much time are you giving them for that? And then you go, okay, it's X amount of time that I'm giving them for that $200 a month. Awesome. So what could we give them in between your freebies that you might have, like your checklists and your ebooks and stuff like that, if you have any? And then your one-on-one time is on top. So think of it as a deflated beach ball. Your free things are always going to be on the bottom. Your one-on-one time is always going to be in the middle. And as you create your products and services, that inflates the beach ball, and your free stuff is still on the bottom, and your one-on-one time is still on top. So you start charging the most for your one-on-one time. The things you put inside of there are things like videos, video courses, your books, if you have one, your group calls, if you want them, your ability to bring in other speakers and they get access to that kind of information. It can be your favorite podcasts that you've heard from other places, and you've put them together in a little library for them, and they have instant access to it. And you charge them $47 for your favorite podcast you've ever heard. That goes in between the free and your one-on-one time. And you start figuring out, okay, how much stuff do I think I would have to put in that beach ball in order for my either my one-on-one time or for my high-end package to be worth 10 grand a year. So you're going to have a little micro course. You're going to have a middle of the line course. You're probably going to have some group coaching. You're probably going to have some one-on-one time, and that's okay. Just create the little myriad, your soup or the soup that you're making for your clients, put it that way, that you're going to charge them for. So it's totally cool where you're at and what you're offering people. And the way, if you want to get into that, of how you create that, what we call a ladder of ascension. So every time they take a step up and they're spending more and more money with you, that they get more and more of your time. Do you want to go into that right now? Because it's super simple.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go. Okay.
Absolutely.
So you have a thing that you teach people, right? It is whatever it is. You've taken a course somewhere and you're a coach. You've done a bunch of courses somewhere and you've put this medley together that is now your special secret sauce. And you do this thing with your clients that nobody else does with their clients, which is awesome. Now, what you want to do is have, say, a checklist. So it doesn't matter if you're in relationship coaching, if you're in health coaching, if you're in business coaching, there's going to be some fundamental principles that you teach everybody all the time, and that it helps them to scale. And it might be, if they're in business, well, if they're in business, it might be, say, let's take Laura Langemeyer's checklist, because I love her checklist. First one is, do you have a housekeeper? Have to have a housekeeper. You got to start leveraging your time and quit spending your time in the toilet bowl. Pay somebody else to do that for you. And then you move on to these other levels that she has of how you start to delegate your work or duplicate your work in order to become the business owner. Your checklist might be something like, eat less and exercise more. It's a terrible one, but that might be it. That's okay. Start with that. If it's eat more raw vegetables, and cut down on meat, that's fine. And then start doing your thing, whatever it is. Keep in mind, I'm a complete and total carnivore. I could live on meat alone and be perfectly happy with it. So I'm not telling you what you have to do. I'm just saying, whatever you choose to do, create a checklist for people and say, hey, start here, organize your 1 foot off your desk, and then move into 2 square feet on your desk, and then move into your bookshelf and clean off 1 square foot on that bookshelf, and create a checklist for people. Okay, so we've got this checklist. It's about 5 to 10 items on that thing. Now what you're going to do is create a mini course on that. Candace, whenever you want to kick in, pick your favorite checklist that you love, make one up. I don't care. She's going to kick in with that when she's ready, because then we're going to make a mini course off of that.
Oh my God. My mind is blown right now. I'm having trouble figuring out what I want the checklist to be. Identifying your ideal client. The five steps to identifying your ideal client.
5 steps to identifying your ideal client. Perfect. So we're creating an avatar for a business so that they can identify their uniquenesses. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is, so we have this checklist, 5 things for identifying your avatar. And it might be something like, and you pick whatever you want and go ahead and R&D this, because I'm not making this. It's all yours.
All right. So
the first thing,
where do they live? What do they do for a living? How much money do they make? What car do they drive? What do they collect?
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So now what you can do is create a little mini course on each one of those subjects. You create a little 5-minute video, because everybody inevitably is going to go, where do they live? I don't know where they live. How do I know where they live? I've never talked to my clients before, right? Or they're all over the planet. It could be anywhere. How do I know that? So you make a little 5-minute video helping them to be able to decide where their ideal client might live. Awesome. And then you got a little 5-minute video on each one of those. Now you have a little mini series helping people, so that when they download the checklist for free, then you can say at the bottom of that, hey, if you like this, you're going to love my mini course on creating your avatar. So then they go and they check out creating your avatar. They pay you $50 for that. They go through it, and through it, you're peppering and going, hey, I had this client, Mary, and when Mary went through this, she was having a real tough time identifying where her avatar lived, because some of her clients were nomads, and some lived in the States and some lived here. And what we did in our Knowing Your Avatar course was we helped her to work through where all of those people lived. And what we found out was, it wasn't so much about where they lived so much as, how much they spent on living expenses in a month. And that if that's the case, you can identify that, and you can start to identify zip codes of people who have similar expendable incomes. And you can we'll explain that to you in our course, Knowing Your Avatar. So now what you're doing is, in your little 5-minute videos, you're peppering your $200 or your $500 course. Now you're going to take all that information, you're going to create 20-minute videos, or maybe pushing 30-minute videos on that exact same topic, but you're going in depth even further. So now you're going into Mary's example of, she doesn't know who her avatars are. How do you identify that? Great. It's more about expendable income. Awesome. Now we have an avatar. And then you go, okay, now we have the demographics of our avatar, and we know where they're hanging out. We know what they're doing. We know how they're speaking to each other. You know, when you sign up for my 3-day event, blah, 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 and differentiating yourself in your marketing, you have a concept of who your avatar is. But the thing is, what you don't know is there are people like King Charles and Ozzy Osbourne who have very similar demographics, but they clearly have different psychographics. And they clearly have different buying reasons for buying. So in our 3-day course, we're going to go through these differentiators so that you have a rock solid message that you can attract your clients. And this course, you know, is only, you know, $47, or it's free. And if you want the VIP, we're going to bring in special guests. We're going to talk to the VIPs during the lunches and the breaks. And, you know, if you want to sign up for VIP now, sign up for $197. Awesome. Okay. And then from that 3-day course, you're going to upsell into your $10,000 coaching program, which is going to contain this, that, and the other thing, and basically getting their message out to that ideal avatar. So now we've gone from a checklist to your entire ladder of ascension, or your product line, that you can sell for 10 grand a year to your ideal client. And basically, it's not knowing anything more than what you know. It's just being able to put the steps in place for people that don't have a clue what they're doing, and being able to help them walk through that process in order to become successful in getting to their ideal clients.
Many years ago, I went to a free 2-hour event that was hosted by a Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad coach. And from that free 2-hour event, I was sold on a 3-day event that I paid for and went to. It was like $500, so it wasn't that expensive. And at that 3-day, it was jam packed. It was really worth my time. 3-day event, we were sold the $5,000 package during. So yeah, that, I mean, and this concept really is the way that many businesses have been doing upsales. I mean, even when I was a buyer for a chain of retail stores, we had doorbusters. You know, we would have a low price jacket or something like that. And then, you know, the expectation is when they walk in the door that we would have higher priced items or more items, you know, that would, you know, one of the things that I purchased as a buyer was little gamey gadget things that cost $5 that, you know, that you would just pick up at the cash register and say, hey, let's add this to the thing too, because it's cute. My number one seller was this thing. It was a boomerang. It was a foam boomerang. We couldn't keep enough of them in stock. You know?
Right. That sounds super fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. But how does someone who is, well, I think it's vision. It's vision. I want to go backward though to your soup analogy, because I love your soup analogy, and I wish I would have interjected this then. This morning I made gumbo because it's spring outside and it's gumbo time. So as I was prepping to make the gumbo, I realized we didn't have any celery, right? We didn't have any bay leaves. There's a couple of things.
You put bay leaves in your gumbo?
2 bay leaves go in the gumbo, right? We didn't have any.
Okay, hold on, back up. What's a bay leaf?
Bay leaf.
Okay.
Bay leaf, yes.
I heard Bailey's, like Irish cream.
Oh yeah, you don't put any Irish cream in your gumbo. So we were missing a whole bunch of these ingredients that go into the gumbo. And then my husband had purchased the stuff. Like he had the andouille sausage and he bought some frozen okra, but he only bought 1 bag of okra and he didn't buy any celery. So there aren't enough vegetables for the gumbo. And so I just sort of adapted the recipe the best I could, knowing that there was missing ingredients. And I don't know if it's going to taste good. You know, I know it's going to be a little runny because it doesn't have enough vegetables in it. But you just, I mean, it didn't stop me from doing it because I didn't have all the ingredients.
Right?
Which is, I mean, back to your soup analogy, you got a pot of boiling water, just add stuff to it until you figure out what tastes good.
Right. And I think so many people get stuck. And let's point all fingers at me on this one. I got stuck thinking that I need to know something that I didn't know, thinking that I need to have something awesome and amazing that I didn't have. And all that crap stopped me. And it's silly now because trust me, go and talk to Candace, go and talk to somebody, go and talk to anybody and start brainstorming this stuff. Because like I said earlier, you could take your 10 favorite podcasts and turn it into an entire learning you take 12 of them and boom, you've got your content for the whole year building out. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to listen to this podcast and then we're going to spend an hour in a group coaching call and we're going to go through what elements did you take out of it, what do you learn from it, and what are you going to implement on it. Great.
And
Write that down in your book, write
talking
that down in your journal.
you're talking about any of my favorite podcasts by any person.
Right.
Wow. What a great idea.
Yeah.
What a great idea. Listen to this podcast and we're going to have some group coaching. Come be prepared. Make sure you listen to the podcast before we come and let's talk about this and how it applies to your business.
And you can take any journal anywhere on the planet and go through their book. You don't even have to come up with your own book, right? Because every journal on the planet is going to go, today's day is blah, and today I feel blah, and I don't like that I did blah, and I'm going to do this from now on, and here's my action items, or whatever it is. You can take literally any journal and just borrow it and use it as your thing. Nobody's going to care that I don't care that you bought 20 of my journals that I sell and gave it to your clients and said, hey, we're going to use Michelle's journal for this section of our course, right? Nobody cares. As long as you give me credit for that, I'm happy, right? Give me the royalties that I'm due. Life is good. So buy 10 of them, give them to your clients. They love getting the little package that goes, oh, I got the USB with all the podcasts on it. I got a journal. Like it's a little basket when they sign up and everybody's super stoked. Like you don't have to come up with your own stuff.
Well, if you do it right, people can just jump in. I mean, you don't have to start from the beginning of the year and go to the end of the year. You could just jump in and say, jump in whenever you want. This month's topic is, here's the podcast.
Exactly.
Here's the here's the date of the coaching.
Exactly. And even if we're talking about mindset this month, everybody's got mindset issues. If we're talking about marketing, everybody's got marketing issues. It doesn't matter where they are in their business or what they're doing. They're going to take that information at the level that they're at and go, okay, how does this apply to you? Just what we've talked about earlier today. I mean, I'm talking to you, assuming that you're what Candace is calling a micropreneur. You're doing everything yourself. You're chief bottle washer.
Everything officer.
Exactly. But the same exact thing applies to somebody that's been running their business for 20. I could take a lawyer that's been running their business for 20 years and going, hey, you want to transition online? Here's how you do it. And here's how it goes down. And they're taking the exact same information and building on what they already have, wherever you bring people in. So if you do three-day programs a year and you want to funnel them in that way, if you just do networking events all year long and go, hey, we have 3 openings. Hey, we have 2 openings. Hey, we have 1 opening. Great. We're full, but we're taking waiting list. Awesome.
So tell me about your business. I know you're in the automation industry. So tell me about that.
I'm a special kind of crazy, and I decided I want to have 50 employees. So we are working up to our 50 employees. And what we do is digital marketing automation done for you. So we do the tech behind marketing for companies. So when you say, I want a website and I want people to opt into my checklist and I want them to then sign up for my course and buy my course, we set up the product, we set up the pages, we set up the opt-in forms, we set up the merchant account for that. We set up all the tech behind it so that you can continue to come up with awesome ideas and the tech's all done for you.
Are you doing the web design too, or are you just doing the plugins? Okay. So
no, we do the web design too. So it depends on the size of a company and what they have set up. Some companies, if they're bigger, will have a web company doing their stuff for them. And then we just work with the web company and make sure that everything's set up the way they want it to, or that they need it to. And if they don't have somebody, then, and say they built a Wix site, we'll take that Wix site, we'll create it on a WordPress site with Thrive and make sure that everything runs properly so that we can integrate it. Sorry, Wix, and sorry, everybody who has a Wix site, but they
Yeah.
don't let
No,
us make forms on them. So we got to
you,
rebuild that.
you don't need to apologize to me about being anti-Wix. Canva just came out with websites and people are really
Oh my
excited about
God.
it. They're so excited about it, which is great because it's a competition for like LinkedIn profile, like LinkedIn bio, right? It's a
Yeah.
good competition for that. It makes a prettier LinkedIn bio link. But if Canva ever decides that they don't want to have these websites anymore, you're going to lose your website. So that's what I'm saying. If you're going to do this, use it as something, like a landing page for something, but have a real website that's done on WordPress or some other website builder that's real and hosted on your own hosting. Just saying.
Yeah. Because the
Dig
same
into
thing
that.
happens
Yeah.
with Facebook pages, right? Somebody can have a Facebook page and they can sell their wares on there just fine. So there's an antique company that I know of that has fantastic stuff. It's awesome, but it happens to be about 2.5 hours away from me. So it is definitely a destination shopping place. And I can't buy this stuff online because they don't inventory their stuff. So I get to go to the Facebook page, drool over the pictures, and wonder whether or not that's been sold or not, and go drive over there and go pick it up if I still want it, or phone them and say, hey, go pick it up, and then come home with it. It can work. It's not an ideal model by any stretch of anyone's imagination, even the owners, but they're at the point where they're going like, I don't want to start taking pictures and inventorying everything and going into technology. What they really want to do is just have a little fun with it and sell out in 2 years. I
Well,
totally get that.
but
Totally
they have identified who their ideal client is and where they hang out.
exactly.
Their
Yes.
ideal client hangs out on Facebook. They probably would not have as much success on TikTok. I'm just saying.
Just saying. And if Facebook shut down their landing page, they'd be going, I guess we're done. Okay, shut the doors.
Yeah.
Sell the stuff to
Probably.
locals and we're out of here. Right? Their business model works with that kind of concept, because Facebook could close a page down at any point in time. They could say, yeah, we're not supporting this anymore. Poof, those are gone. And it works fine for that. It does not work so fine when you're young and trying to build your company and you're an influencer and you're going, I had 100,000 followers and now they don't know how to get a hold of me. That's
the
when you start
thing
to cry.
about social media is that you just don't know. You can't control what's going to happen. All you can control is what you have control over. So we cannot
and all
control.
you have control over is something you've paid for. If you haven't
Yeah.
paid for it, you don't own it. It's not yours.
Well, and we're learning in social media that paying for something may not make it yours as well. Like right now, for a little bit, you could pay $8 to become someone else on Twitter. So did you hear about that?
No.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh my goodness.
Twitter instituted a $8 checkmark verification. So you pay $8 a month and you become a checkmarked person. Well, people were paying $8 and they called and they said that they were congressmen. They said they were Elon Musk. They said that they were pharmaceutical companies. And then they started posting as the pharmaceutical company. One of them went so far as to say, hey, Eli Lilly, we're Eli Lilly and insulin is now free. Well, the stock price for Eli Lilly tanked because
people believed it. Oh
people believed it. So yeah,
the cool part to me is I think we are in a fascinating area of technology right now where we are still muddling through it, trying to figure out how to make it work and how to. People want to have some control and yet they don't want control. And like, in my humble opinion, we are at a place right now where we are still thinking that we're dependent on the government. We still think that we're dependent on the system. And I think that as more people become entrepreneurs, we have to focus inward and realize that we are the focus of control and that we are the ones that are making the decision. So right now, there's a lot of consideration as to what should be censored and what should not be. So there's a lot of countries on the planet that have lived with censorship for many, many years and hated it. America was not one of them. America is not liking this whole idea of censorship right now. And things are becoming censored. Google is losing its mind trying to figure out who is phishing email and who is actually sending email. And they don't particularly like marketers because they send out a lot of email, but then so do spammers. So how do you tell them apart? And do we stop them all, or do we leave that up to people to control what's being what's being sent to their inbox? People would lose their mind and quit going with Google. Like, what do we do? So I think it's a fascinating time right now in the world of technology when we're trying to figure out where the focus of control should be. Personally, I think everybody should become an entrepreneur and learn how to take control of that themselves. And then they can start to put rules in their email and go, I want this, I don't want that. And you're good. And Google can start taking care of the jerks that are using other people's servers to bounce off of. And if they got rid of that, they'd solve 3/4 of their problems, in my humble opinion.
I think censorship has been happening a lot longer than Americans want to admit. And you need to fess up and admit that you're Canadian.
Yeah. We've had censorship for a long time.
Well, so have we. And I think that Americans just don't realize that they've had censorship for a long time. My husband and I love watching old Westerns. Gunsmoke is one of our favorites. Awesome. And when Gunsmoke was black and white, it was really gritty, and they addressed rape and all sorts of things on the show when it was in black and white. And then when it became colorized in the 60s and 70s, it was bubble gum. It was like watching the colored version of Gunsmoke is like watching Little House on the Prairie. It is not entertaining television at all. I can barely stomach it. But it's because of censorship. Lord forbid they actually cover that women got raped in the 1800s. Which is a fact of life. So I think Americans have been allowing censorship to slowly creep into their lives, and they're just now really realizing just how bad it's become. But also censorship has to do with, well, I don't like that, so I don't want to see it. Well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Off. If you don't like it, don't watch it. If the F word offends you, don't watch anything PG-13 and above. Right?
It's not like we don't tell you.
Exactly.
As long as you warn me, I'm good.
I do think that we need to like the people who were saying they were Eli Lilly and saying insulin is free. I mean, that's so dangerous. I mean, you could break an economy by stuff like that. So I do believe that stuff kind of thing should be censored, but I don't know how to do it because I'm not in tech.
Well, yeah. And it begs the question, should it be censored, or should people have a little bit more wherewithal to assume that a pharmaceutical company is going to freebie all of a sudden? Like, come on. You got to have a little bit of something going on. And there's a word for it, and it is, I think, critical thinking.
Yeah. Well, we don't learn that in school.
Well, and I think we should, because when I was in school, we actually did learn about critical thinking, and that it has a name, and how you're doing it and how you're not. Because a lot of people think just because I'm thinking about something or I'm pondering something, that means I'm thinking about it. And that's not true. In order to actually critically think about something, you have to question it, and you have to question the reason that you questioned it and the way you questioned it. And that becomes arduous. And then people get a thinking headache, and they're like, it's just too much like work. Like, why do we have to do this? So and then it comes down to, okay, does this really affect my life or not? And if the answer is no, then stop and start using your brain power for something that you actually want to pay attention to, which in most cases for us is either our family, our business, or in some cases our religion.
I think we need to have some compassion for other people, though. We can't just not think about other things and then not be compassionate.
But if we're not taking care of those first few things that are high on our value list, then it becomes we're half-efforting. I said that nicely. We're half-efforting the effort that we put into something, and we can't really be critically thinking about it, because then, like, there's too much data. There's too much that I need to sift through in order to figure out what the actual best outcome of that situation might be. Whereas that energy, in my opinion, would be best spent in this moment, critically thinking about me and my business and what do I want to create. And, getting back to that $10,000 product, why did I just tune that out and say, no, I'm not doing that, without the critical thinking of, could I do that? What if I could do that? What if I just thought about having that and just suggested, like, hey, if anybody's interested in this, I'm thinking about making it and seeing who might be interested in it. And all of that energy goes into that side of things. Now we got the people who actually care about the pharmaceutical companies when it happens to their stock price. They can worry about that stuff, and we'll worry about this.
So when I was,
and if it was just a funny, by the way, if it was just a funny, that was funny.
Yeah. Well, it is hilarious, except the stock price is tanked, which could be very dangerous. Went down by 450% or something like that. It was really, I mean, I don't think that's,
a couple of billionaires hurt themselves.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of billions tripped over themselves
when they tripped over their Twitter alert.
So when I was in elementary school in Tacoma, Washington, or Gig Harbor, Washington, I was in a program called GATE, Gifted and Talented Education. And we were pulled out of class during English. So instead of learning the difference between a noun and a pronoun and an adjective and a verb, we were learning critical thinking skills.
Nice.
So fast forward to high school, I had trouble with adjectives and verbs and all that because I didn't learn that in 5th grade. I was learning critical thinking skills, but man, could I write a good essay.
Right.
So it was like we were taught something really beneficial and valuable, but we didn't learn something that was also beneficial and valuable. So
I bet you nickels to dimes if I asked all of your listeners right now what the difference between an adjective and an adverb was. Half of them are gonna get it. There might be a more difficult question I could ask, but I couldn't think of the word to ask them because we just don't think about these things, right? Passive or what is it? Passive voice or
the other active voice, passive,
active,
yeah.
Right? Would you be able to identify it in a sentence? I'm thinking maybe 70. If you have a really academic listening base,
actually, active voice, yes, I can totally identify that because it's something that I was hounded on in college and
See, you're just a smarty pants. That's all.
But the thing is, what I was getting at was that there has to be room. You have to have room in your life for everything that's important I mean, there's a foundation. I mean, even though you think you don't need algebra, you do. Without algebra, we wouldn't have straight roads. You think you don't need, I guess the geometry is the straight roads. So having the foundation at least gives
then I don't build roads. However, it does come in really handy when you're playing pool. Super handy knowing geometry.
See, if you're good at geometry, you could be a pool shark, right?
Exactly.
So the people who reject education, and history is one of those things, like history just gets pushed aside. My daughter actually attended a college that didn't have English requirements. It was a private college, so they could get away with this. You didn't have to take an English class because in history and sociology and all the other classes that you're taking, you're writing papers and you're doing things that are required by your English skills. So you're writing your papers. Well, you don't need to take English because if you can write this essay, then you obviously would have passed English, right? So she got to spend a lot of time
depending on who's marketing.
Well, she got to spend a lot of time taking classes that she enjoyed, which were history related. And there's things that she learned in her history classes that I didn't know. And I think I'm a pretty smart chick. And so that's important because if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. And we don't need to repeat some of that history. We don't need to be burning women at the stake anymore because they float because, somebody accused them of being a witch. That happened. We don't need that to happen. So
it did. And unfortunately, the consequences of which I did find out recently. Well, I can say I found out. I was hinted at that whole thing had to do with the bubonic plague. So I'm going to go back and look at that to see whether or not it was people blaming witchcraft and sorcery for the bubonic plague. So I want to go and study that and figure that out. But one thing you do want to know, don't invade Canada in winter. It's a terrible idea and you will lose the war. So just saying, that kind of history is important.
Yeah, I don't know that history. I live in Michigan. I am just over the border from you or from Canada, and I don't know that history. I really don't understand. I live in Michigan now, and I really don't understand the Ohio-Michigan War. What was that war about? There was an actual war that took place between two states within the United States. A war. They call it the Michigan-Ohio War. I don't know what it was about. I just know what happened.
I love this conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. I just try to surround myself with people who are smarter than me.
Right?
Oh.
Yeah, me too. It works so much better. That way I don't have to think. I just ask some questions. Hey.
Okay, so you have a freebie on your website. Want to talk about it? Because I think it's a cool freebie. And I have to tell you that I actually went in and I tried to do it today, and I was really excited to get it. And then I forgot to save it before I closed the window. So I had to go do it again. So talk about it. Talk about why it's important to save it. Don't be like Candace and close the window.
Right. Which one is that? Remind me.
The website audit.
Oh, the website audit. Okay. Because I was thinking all you had to do is go and put your website in there and hit enter. But yeah, you need your name and your email and some other fun stuff.
No, I did all that and I got the info and I was excited and I forgot to download it before I closed the window. So I have to go back and redo it so I can download it so I can go and read it later.
You should have an email as well with the link on it.
Well, I didn't
I think we double dosed that one just because some people weren't getting the emails that we had sent out. They're going in, thanks Google. They were going in their spam folders and fun stuff like that. So I think you get an email as well so that you have the link. And if you don't, it should auto-populate. But having said that, go in and check out awarenessstrategies.com/website-audit. And the links will be in the show notes, I'm assuming, and you will get a huge report, on all your yellow lights, green lights, and red lights, and meaning that Google and the authorities that be right now are letting your traffic go through onto your site, which is great. That means you're getting green lights and the traffic is clear to go. You may be getting some yellow lights, which means that they're slowing down the traffic going to that site because they don't like some of the stuff you got going on. And it might be that you say that that page is about certain things, but then you talk about other stuff on that page that confuses Google. They don't like that, or maybe it confuses people and they bounce off. So that'll give you the yellow light. That'll give you a lower traffic to that page. And you may have some red lights. Red lights are very important to go and change right away because it means that Google is not letting any traffic go to that site. It's stopping it. Things that'll usually set that off start with acronyms like your SSL certificates and other stuff. So if you need to have somebody else go and look at that, absolutely take that report, take it to your team, or you can, at the end of that, there's a link that you can book a discovery call with me, and I'll help you to strategize and prioritize some of the stuff that's in there and speak English to you so that you understand what it is and if it's important or not.
English is important to just, not those airy fairy words that mean nothing to people who don't get them, and acronyms, using acronyms, and like, what does that mean? What does that word mean? I hate that when people do that in like Facebook posts. They put this TTLY or whatever. TY. I don't talk.
You're like, what does that mean? Talk to you later.
To you later. Okay. TTYL. If you don't know what that means, you don't know what it means.
Right?
SMH.
Usually when it comes to tech acronyms, it does mean something. We had a conversation once, was hilarious, with a bunch of techies, and they were all trying to say out all of the acronyms instead of doing it. And oh my God, it was hilarious, painful, and a very long conversation. So I totally get why they abbreviate everything.
I did an interview with a guy who does cybersecurity like a couple months ago. And I actually had to get him to stop doing the acronyms and say, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
Oh, hilarious. So yeah, you start getting techies in the conversation. It's like, oh, okay, we're going to stop you at every acronym and ask what the definition is. But then you're going to have to transcribe the whole conversation.
Do you want to hear something seriously ironic? After I interviewed him, I got hit with a Japanese keyboard hack. After I interviewed him.
Rude.
I know. And the Japanese keyboard hack is that they take over your
keyboard.
No, not your keyboard. No. Sitemap. They take over your sitemap and they rewrite your sitemap, and your sitemap then redirects to this Japanese clothing site.
Oh, how rude.
Yeah. So it took my web host a couple of days to clean it up.
Oh,
yeah. God. She's amazing. I love my web host. I've been using her since 1999. It's Danjo Creations, and they're in Canada. It's Joe. Her name's Joe Shea. I absolutely adore her. If you're looking for a web host audience, Danjo Creations. I think it's danjo.net is the website. All right. There'll be a
Shut
link to that
up.
in the show notes. I
Awesome.
am so loyal to her.
Yeah.
1999 people. I've been using her
Right?
since
That's impressive.
1999. I
It's
would
not
never
only
change.
impressive that you're loyal to her, that she's been in business that long and still is, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. I absolutely adore my web host.
Nice.
Okay. So is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
Well, what I do want to talk about, because we're pertinent to kind of your listeners and what's going on for them. However, your listeners are also centers of influence that also know people. And what I would love, love, love is if you know somebody listening to this and they are running a business, ideally between $1 and $20 million, and they're also talking about their tech issues that are going on. Believe it or not, they have tech issues too. They do. And from our opinion, they're very similar to your issues too. Is so we think they're on another level, and it's like, yeah, no, we're still trying to figure out opt-ins and websites and how this stuff all
It's
integrates.
just a more expensive version of the same problem that you're having.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we would love, love, love to talk to them about it. We do have a special digital adoption roadmap for businesses so that we can create a 5-year game plan for them and their technology in order to be able to keep up and continually finding their businesses. So everybody from you, if you're interested, book your appointment with me. And if you're talking to people, business and tech, I would love to hear from them.
Excellent. So I probably already know what it is, but what's your favorite marketing tip, tool, or technique?
My favorite marketing tip is leave it to the experts. My experts, on the other hand, love to use Infusion software, what's now Keep Max Classic, because there is nothing I haven't thrown at them and said, hey, I've been thinking, I think we should do this, that they haven't been able to figure out how to do it with that technology, which is to them the most important thing.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Okay. So this is my favorite part of the conversation. It's your moment of gratitude. For whom or what are you most grateful?
In this exact moment, I am most grateful to my tech team that I have the liberty to be able to go out and do podcasts like this and have fun with you and talk about marketing and strategies and fun stuff. And they're back in their closets where we're grilling them and sliding them pizza and going, hey, Carter. So I'm super grateful for them. They're awesome.
Thanks for joining us this week for Gratitude Geek, the relationship marketing podcast helping DIY marketers find your micro influencer magic so you attract raving fans and repeat buyers. Your time is precious, and I am ever so grateful that you chose to spend your time with us today. Be sure to check the show notes at gratitudegeek.com, episode 147, for links to all the groovy resources mentioned today, and of course, to connect with Michelle Nedelec and Awareness Strategies. If you enjoyed this episode, why not leave a 5-star review? Look for the leave a review link in the show notes, gratitudegeek.com, episode 147. Our theme music is track 14 by Rev Brock and Solely. I've been your host, Candice Rodardi. Join me on my mission to spread gratitude, sow seeds of appreciation, and harvest a bounty of generosity and kindness. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy, my friends.
Thanks for being here today. It was a lot of fun, and I learned something. I love it when I learn something.
Yay! What'd you learn besides don't invade Canada in winter?
Don't invade Canada in winter.